But I'm here today to talk about a subject that has always been very dear to my heart, saving the U.S. auto industry. That's what I spoke about in Oakland many years ago. I said, they're stealing your auto industry years ago. They're stealing your auto industry. You got to stop it. Well, they didn't exactly listen. But we have to make that industry bigger, better, stronger, and more dynamic than ever before. And I've been reading about Detroit for so many years that it's coming around, and never really got there. Everybody tries so hard. But if you make the auto industry bigger, better, stronger, you don't have to worry about Detroit. It'll be very good. It'll come by its own. That would be non-artificial. That would be the way to do it, right? You make the auto industry thrive, bring it back to where it was 50, 60 years ago. You can do that too. And that's my goal, and I'm laying out a policy that will absolutely do it. In my opinion, absolutely do it. And I've been very good at this over my life. So my goal is to see U.S. auto manufacturing even greater than it was in its prime, and for Detroit and Michigan to be at the center of the action. For generations, this city and state were the world capital of automotive production. And American automakers rolled one iconic model off the line after the next, the Mustang, the Corvette, the Pontiac GTO. I had two of them, actually. I had that GTO. Oh, I thought I was the hottest guy around. It was crazy. We didn't have all of the foreign competition then. You were so proud to have a Corvette. Oh, if you had a Corvette. I never got a Corvette. I tell you, I feel I was left behind. But I had my GTO. I was something, man. I'd put that top down. See, in those days, I didn't mind when the hair waved. I'd go fast, and that hair would be waving, that blonde hair, and I'd say, who the hell can take me? Nobody. Today, I'm a little more careful. I want it to be. I want to cover up that little area up there. It's a little bit soft up there. Cover it up. No, it was great. But you did. You had the greatest product. It was just fantastic. And right here in Detroit, Americans invented the muscle car and the minivan and the family SUV so much. And along the road, you made the American automobile an inseparable part of the And it was inseparable of the American dream. It was part of the American dream. But after decades and decades of Michigan auto workers giving our nation their very best, our leaders in Washington did their very worst for them. They were terrible. You lost nearly 4 million manufacturing jobs after globalist politicians gave us the twin disasters of NAFTA, which I terminated, and China's entry into the World Trade Organization. That was a very expensive two things. Nearly 250,000 jobs were destroyed here. Right here in Michigan alone, think of it. 250,000, 250,000 jobs, including 40% of all of the auto jobs. And then it got to be much higher than that. Detroit was decimated as if by a foreign army. This was a foreign army invading us, but it was an army of business people, very brilliant business people, that took the candy out of our pockets just like you take it from a baby. That's how easy it was for them. Factories were left in ruins. Beautiful hotels and theaters crumbled. More than 80,000 homes were abandoned. You see it outside. By the time I came into office after our victory in 2016, the Michigan auto industry was on its knees begging for help, gasping. And really, it was at the last breaths of life. And I had to move quickly. You were going to not have any auto industry here. It was all gone. It was just about over. They were going to move so fast, and I let countries that were stealing our businesses know, you do that, I'm going to do things to you you're not going to believe. I'm going to put tariffs. They laid off a lot. They could have taken it. We were at a very vulnerable point. I let certain countries know that if you do that, I'm going to put tariffs on you, and you're going to get your asses kicked, I'm telling you. And they laid off. They really laid off. But they laid off what? We had not very much left. So just as I promised, I withdrew from the job-killing Trans-Pacific Partnership in my very first week. And the reason I did is that that would have absolutely destroyed your auto industry. You would have had none left. It was a disaster. And if you remember, Hillary Clinton wanted it, and Obama wanted it. And then after she read the facts, when I did it, she came out against it because she said, you know, he's right. She was totally in favor of it. But when she said, she came out actually and agreed with me. And she said, I'm also against it. But I was there. It's sort of like no tax on tips. And then 2 months later, Kamala came out, no tax on tips. And it didn't play well for her. Didn't play well for Hillary either, obviously. I ended the disaster known as NAFTA, the worst trade deal ever made by our country, and replaced it with the brand new USMCA. Bob Lighthizer and his team did a great job. The best trade deal, they say, ever made. I actually think maybe our deal with China, but I don't talk about that deal very much because of COVID. But we have a deal with China where they buy $50 billion worth of our product. That was a great deal. We have made a lot of good ones. But with the USMCA, that's Mexico and Canada, we have massive incentives to make cars in the United States of America. I renegotiated Obama's Korea trade deal, which was a disaster, to fully restore the protective tariff on foreign pickup trucks. You know, the auto industry in this country makes most of its money from the pickup truck. Who would think, right? But we do great. If we didn't have that, you'd have no auto industry. You would, because that subsidizes other things. And the only reason it does is that the tariff on every single one of the big, if you didn't have the tariffs, if I didn't put those tariffs, you would be inundated with from all over the world, and you wouldn't have it. Every single one of the big Detroit Big Three could right now, and would right now, guaranteed be out of business. 50% of their U.S. sales are pickup trucks. Think of that, 50%. They make all their money with almost all their money. I want to be very accurate because you got a lot of fake news back there. I want to be extremely accurate. They came to see you in Detroit. I'll tell you, that's a good thing because they're going to hear some things today I think that are going to be very interesting. Perhaps most importantly, I imposed a 27.5% tariff on all Chinese automobiles, which largely kept them out of the market, meaning kept them out of the market and kept Detroit in business. In other words, I kept Chinese cars out of America, and we had to do it because when they come in, they take over everything, and you would have had no car manufacturing at all. And it was only me that did it. I met with a lot of resistance. And remember this, between the lobbyists and everything else, it's brutal. It's brutal. Getting people to go along with you is brutal. Even if it's the wrong thing. They know it's the wrong thing, but they get paid a lot of money. So I just want to say, Michigan, you're welcome, because we have a little base to start off. And if you look at Europe, Chinese cars have been absolutely drowning Europe, drowning it. It's killing it. But because of me, they are not drowning America. You see very few of them because of the tariffs. And when they do come in, they pay a lot of money. The Biden administration is thinking of taking that tax off, and if they take that tax off, you can wave goodbye to your auto industry, and you have the worst union leader probably in the history of, maybe in the history of our country for any business. I don't know him. Sean Fain is a disaster. But your industry would be gone very quickly. Under my leadership, we created nearly 500,000 brand new manufacturing jobs, including 30,000 auto manufacturing jobs right away. We saved it and we got it going. And that was nothing compared to what I'm talking about now, nothing. Because we had COVID come in that final period, and we had to focus on that. The share of cars sold that were domestically produced increased for the first time in many years. It actually, because it was going down, down, down. And since I left, wait till you hear those numbers. The U.S. trade deficit in automobiles dropped by $6.8 billion. Think of that. And I had to do it on the fly. We had to do it fast because you're going to have no industry whatsoever. Whatever you have now, and it's a fraction of what you used to have in the glory days. I call them the glory days. That was when we were the greatest in so many ways. U.S. Steel, look at it. They want to sell U.S. Steel to a foreign country. I'm going to not let that happen. I hope the deal doesn't close before then. I will not let that happen. We need our steel. You know, I imposed a tremendous tariff on China and the steel. They were dumping steel all over the country, and our steel mills were going out of business, and I put a 50% tariff on, and that largely stopped it. And I think the people that like me the best are the steel people, because I saved their industry. We wouldn't have one steel plant in this country if I didn't do that. There wouldn't be